Alright boys, I'm gonna get straight into this one, and the first thing I'm gonna say about this is I'm gonna split it into meta magic and metaphysical, and then great, okay, and
What the hell?
because of course with the addition of physical and magic as the affinities, there has to be a new category in the game in terms of tier listing all these new units. So let's get started, and I'm probably not gonna be using the leaderboards or Lelouch just because they're most likely unobtainable for normal players, and this is gonna be the general consensus for those who are playing the game naturally, playing the game without trying to go for the #1 spot, just playing the game to be good. But let's start off with the first one, which is Yuta. So Yuta, of course, this man is a little expensive to place down, and he does have a high SPA rate when fully maxing him out, but in the end he will have a lot of range, a lot of damage. I believe it's into the 150,000 plus, and he has a fat, thick, wide line AoE, which is really good as a meta magic. This is good for the new maps just because the new Bleach map has really long lines between the gas station area, and you can place him down straight in the back, killing anything in between. Now we got your boy Megami. So Megami is of course a meta magic, not in the terms of his damage, but of course in the terms of supporting. Megami can give a, I believe, 25% buff for magic weakness, so that's really nice. You can pair that up with Yuta or Gojo or any other magic unit in the game, and they'll do a ton of damage on the weakened enemy that Megami focuses. Up next, we got Jelly. We got a long strain of magic units, and of course, Jelly or Jalal is a magic meta. So Jalal, of course, if you already don't know, he's a hybrid unit. He is unobtainable now, but for those who did play, he's really useful as a meta magic. Like I said, he's a hybrid. He has a fat AoE. He does a ton of damage only near the end of his upgrades, which is the downside, but still really good for placing him down, killing those airs. There are a lot of legend stages that need hills or hybrids hitting those airs. Next up, we got Armin, and if you already don't know, Armin is the best unit out currently. If you already don't know that, you're missing out. But honestly, with jokes aside, Armin is actually a really good unit now, right? This is just jokes aside, a really good unit. You might not think, whoa, that's crazy, but in the latest updates, he did get a good buff, and his damage did scale quite a bit, meaning that he's a meta magic. Now, the reason why I say this is because he's a fat full AoE, which coincides with his manual ability. Instantly explodes. It is a 60-second SPA, somewhere around there, but his manual ability, where he time shifts into the Colossal Titan, he does around like 60,000 plus damage, which is pretty insane if you keep placing down multiples. He is very good for clearing waves, very good for clearing anything in general, and honestly, just place him down again when he's not useful if you still have a ton of money. Another magic type unit, which is your boy Ulquiorra. So Ulquiorra, if you already didn't know, in this update, I believe he did get a massive buff. Now he does a ton of damage. He got kind of this hybrid buff where basically you could place him on the ground and he could hit airs, which is really good. I don't believe you could place him on hills, which makes him kind of like a unique unit, kind of like you could say Ichigo and Gon, where they're on the ground specifically, but they could hit airs, which makes Ulquiorra a really good flying killer. And since he's magic and has that nice fat line AoE plus circle AoE at the end, it just makes him meta. Now Arima, surprisingly, Arima is honestly still really good. If you still have Arima and you can't get these new units, go ahead and use him. He's still a really good magic unit. He has that nice cone AoE. Of course, his damage is scaling with the more levels that we're getting, and he has a nice low SPA, which makes him pretty good as a magic unit. Not the best, but still decent. Now we got Super Perfect Cell. So Super Perfect Cell, you might not believe it, but he is a physical, but still he is a really good one at best. All right, he is a hill type, but even with that, he has a really big circle AoE. I think it's nearing the size of a Kainu. It complements him, plus he does a ton of damage. So those two factors alone makes him really good. Next up, we got Urza Lightning. So Urza Lightning is a meta physical. So Urza Lightning, if you already haven't seen her, she's that one with the lightning all over her armor. She has really amazing damage. I think it's up to 70,000, which is really good for a hill unit. Plus, when you add on the fact that her SPA is around 6 to 7 seconds, that's just a good combo. 6 to 7 seconds is already fairly low, but if you put Godspeed on her, get her down to up around 6 seconds, 5 seconds, that's even more broken. And adding onto that, she has a really nice range of around 42, 40, reaching up to 50 sometimes if you have sniper, which just makes a good concoction for a meta physical hill. Now, on the opposite hand, we have Ezra Valkyrie. So Ezra Valkyrie, honestly, I would put her at meta physical, but at this point, there's so many other meta physicals that are so much better than her, in my opinion. She would deserve to be a great, but generally, she still is pretty meta. She has a massive circle AoE. I believe it's bigger than Urza lightnings, and it's like a little bit smaller than Akainu's as well. She goes up into the 50,000 damage, plus if you add on her ability of 50% crit with the multi-hits she does, it's just a good combination for good physical damage. So if you have her from that fairy tale event, then use her if you don't have anything else. Up next, we got Mochi Man Katakuri. So I was kind of disappointed when Katakuri came out early and he's kind of weak in terms of damage, but of course, even throughout all this time, he's still a metaphysical. So what makes him so good is his passive. So if you already don't know, passive is a slow. You can place 4 of them down, and if you just keep placing him down across the map, you could slow down the pace for each unit because he has a passive slow, and it keeps on giving because there's no cooldown. So his line AoE will just clear all that units inside of it and just slow them down eventually, which is really nice. And you don't even have to have him at like level 100. You can just have him at level 1 evolved, and he's still really useful. Now we got one of my favorites, which is Gojo, and you already know this man is a meta magic. Gojo, of course, he has a fat, thick line AoE. I think it's up to 40 to 50 range. I'm not really quite sure. I'm just going off the brain right now. His damage does go pretty insane, of around 50 to 60,000 normally, but you have to give in the factor that you could get the eyes, which evolves him, giving him more upgrades, doing more damage, and then add on the fact that he has a domain expansion which stops everything for around 8 seconds, plus he gets a 100% damage boost. So his total damage is around 100,000 damage, but if you have limitless, it's even more. Like, Gojo is still a crazy magic unit, and I recommend getting him right now. Up next, we got one of the meta physicals. He just came out a couple updates ago. I think it was the last update. I don't even know why I said couple, but it's your boy Asta. Alright, evolved Asta, really amazing damage dealer all around with that relic. I'm not really including relics, but since Asta has a specific relic that shoots towards him, he just does extra damage with that physicalness. Of course, he has a cone AoE. He doesn't have like crazy range, but that cone AoE is almost as wide and thick as Madara, I believe, which is a really nice add-on. Plus, his base placement is around 4,000 to 5,000 damage, which is really nice for clearing enemies. Even though if they're not physical weakened, it's just nice to clear enemies early on, and it goes up to like 60 to 70,000 damage at max. And he has a low SPA, which is really nice. Up next, I got your boy Gildarts. So Gildarts, you might have forgotten him already, but he's still really nice as a physical unit. So physical, of course, he has a full AoE. Gildarts is a master at that, does a ton of damage, around 50 to 60,000 as well. But the main thing that makes him really good is not only his damage, but it's his shield breaking ability. Even at level 1, I believe he could break any shield instantly, no matter how many there is. So with an amount of units that are coming out with these shields that go up to like 10, or even the ones that are just multiplied up to by 2, and there's just a ton of them coming out, Gildarts is just a good way to get rid of them. You don't even have to upgrade them. You can just spread them across the map to get rid of those shields. And then one of my favorites that came out this update is Mugetsu Ichigo, or Final Dust Ichigo. This man is an absolute menace as a physical. Of course, his damage goes up there like crazy, up to around 50,000 with an SPA of around 6 seconds as well, and he has a really high range of up to 50, which is really nice. Those base stats alone can make him really good if you add on the fact that he has a line AoE. I believe it's bigger and thicker than even Stark's. That just makes him even better. But what makes Ichigo Mugetsu Ichigo is his ability. So his ability, when you use it manually, it basically gives him a 900% damage buff. This brings it up to around 500,000 damage with one attack. Although the downside is that he does die and that unit will go away after that. But the good thing is you can keep placing him over and over again. So Ichigo is great for boss killing and wave clearing, especially for leaderboard runs and the new Bleach Legend stages where the units are up to like 2 million, 3 million HP. So get Ichigo. Up next, we got Whitebeard, and Whitebeard is going to be one of the only ones that doesn't get up here. He's probably going to be in the okay section. You know, he's okay. He has a nice knockback. He has okay damage. He has a pretty long SPA, nice full AoE and good range, but just nothing that makes him stand out from the rest and makes him better than support units that knock back. And speaking of support units that knock back, we have All Might. All Might, even through all this time, he's been there since the start. I still see All Might as a metaphysical, not because of his damage, but because of his AoE and passive. His AoE is really big. It reaches up to Akainu, where I'm using Akainu because Akainu is one of the biggest AoEs in the game, but All Might is reaching up there. Plus his passive basically knocks back every unit that gets inside of that circle AoE. So if you place down multiple All Mights, they will keep getting knocked back. There is a little cooldown, but if you place them across the map, nobody will reach your base. So All Might is still a very viable support unit. Next, we got Ghetto. So Ghetto, good magic. all around just a hybrid, similar to Jalal. Honestly, I think he is a better Jalal just by a tiny bit. And yeah, that's all I have to say. For Gray is a meta magic. Alright, Gray is a meta magic because he does have that passive freeze. You know, he has a nice circle AoE and he does hit airs. Up next, we got Noelle. So Noelle, you know, she's not all too crazy, but what makes her a good meta magic unit is the fact that she reduces the unit's magic resistance by 1% with her relic that's given to her. So her alone is okay and good, but with the relic, that's a good pairing right there. Up next, one of the only good ones from the Halloween update, Perona. Perona's a really good meta magic, not because of her damage. As a support unit, she has a great passive slow. You know, she gives depression, slows them every time, and you don't even have to upgrade her. You can just place her down and boom, slow. And then on the opposite hand, we have Brook. Of course, Brook is a meta physical. Not only does he have good damage, he has a full AoE, and every single time he attacks, he has a chance to buff the units with range and damage. I think it's around 15% range and 10% damage, somewhere around that spectrum. You know, nothing to say. Really OP heal unit as a magic. I recommend getting him. You know, no pun intended. Kent, he's I could still say he's a metaphysical, but honestly, he's great. Definitely better than Arima. He does have that nice cone AoE, but his overtime is what really saves him. Now, Lucky is what Kent would be if he had that overtime passively for the rest of the game. So basically, Lucky's a really good physical unit, but Lucky, every single time he attacks, he will stack a % damage buff up until he stops attacking. I believe it goes up to 25%. So with his damage currently, add on that damage buff every single time he attacks, and you get a great physical attacker. Sukuna has that nice physical weakness and has amazing damage. Although he does cost a little bit more to upgrade, he's great for physical legend stages because he weakens them. Now we have Soifan, however you pronounce her name. She is a metaphysical. She's a great heal unit. You can place 5 of her down, and she does 40,000 each. So you could be one of those people in the legend stages that focus on the air units. Yami, believe it or not, he's honestly a really great physical damage unit. Now, this comes down to situations because Yami is only good if you're in a line vicinity. So in the legend stage, for example, the bleach one, there's like a little line area near the gas station. If you place him all the way in the back, kind of like Yuta, he will do a ton of damage, hitting everything there. So you could definitely put him in that physical meta aspect for that legend stage itself. But I'll just put him right here because the current one is bleach and he does have some room to play around in because there are 2 sections where there's line. Next up, we have Mori. Honestly, Mori is one of the more disappointing ones in terms of the Halloween update, but he's still a very good meta magic. He does have a damage of around 50,000 and just generally nice damage dealer. Gon's a good magic. We've already seen Gon in action. He could hit airs and he just does a ton of damage, so can't really go wrong with him. Now Rengoku is definitely great. He's a great damage dealer. He's a fat circle AoE, and including that burn, it'll be great for stages that need elemental damage. For example, if a stage has ice. For Kisuke, he's still definitely a metaphysical. Of course, he's got that nice support, 50% more range and 10% less SPA, I think. So even if you don't use him as a damage dealer, his support is just off the charts. As for Trueheart, great physical support unit, does a lot of bleed and great damage. Natsu, he does have a lower SPA and has amazing damage plus that burn, and he is a magic dealer, so that combination alone is great for elemental stages that include magic. Megami, he's alright. He's great. I guess he's a hybrid, good physical damage, great for physical legend stages. Now Kenpachi is one of the most meta physical in the game right now. Like I just can't believe how overpowered this man is. Right, his damage is around 80,000. Although his SPA is nearing 10 to 11 seconds, he does have full AoE, and his passive is what makes him even greater. His passive is like Brook, but if you replace that buff with a passive stun. Pito, yeah, he's a good physical damage dealer. He's kind of like Ezra, but just a little less worse. So I can see her being great. Trunks, full AoE. I do believe he burns now. I don't know if that's true or not, but he's still great. Shanks, he's aight. He still has that nice full stun with that Conqueror's Haki. Only if they are in a circle though, which is a little annoying. But Tengen, he's okay. You know, for a unit that's specialized towards a dungeon and it takes that much time to get, he's honestly just okay. Now Killua on the other hand is a great physical unit. He has a passive stun. Even though he doesn't have like a really big AoE, he does have a really short SPA. But yeah, if you need a support unit that stuns, I definitely recommend one of these two. Next we got Kite. Kite is he's great. He has a nice like unique ability between switching attacks, though he only really does have one great move, which is that wand attack with a massive AoE. Okiora, honestly, he's okay now. There's better heal units out there. He does have a nice placement of around 6, I believe, or 5, and that critical critical, is really clean, but his damage just doesn't compare to Yuno or Jalal. And Akainu is all doing the back behind Uryu. He's definitely really good for elemental stages, so he's good for those, but besides that, he has a really high SPA, which just brings him down by a ton. He does have a really big AoE, I think one of the biggest in the game, so that definitely brings him up by a tad bit, but not enough to make him in the meta or even great tier in my opinion. Now Gin, he's limited, has a fat line AoE similar to Ichigo. He has a 50% crit. He's just a great ground unit all around. Juzo is still great, you know, great blood dealer. I don't think is as good as Pito, so I'd probably put her as okay, but yeah, I'll put her as okay because his damage dealing and bleeding compared to Pito is just not comparable because Pito has a lower SPA and she does have that nice crit. For Levi, he's okay as well, you know, all the way in the back. He does have that nice boss killing ability with bleed and crit, but it's just the worst Pito in my opinion. Although he can hit airs, his AoE is so small. Broly, he's okay, you know, full AoE. He did get a buff, but it doesn't make him all too great. Tadara, that's all I have to say about him. There's better fire dealers out there that you could choose. Akaza, he's okay actually. He doesn't compare to Rengoku, but his passive is pretty nice though. That extra damage, 30%. Madara, so Madara actually got a really nice buff to where he's honestly great. He's got that nice burn. He does have more damage now, and alongside of his SPA and AoE, it makes him a great damage dealer. And I can't think off the bat if he's physical or magic, but whichever category he's in, that means he's great for that type. Lucy, I mean, she summons units, but she's pretty dog in terms of damage. She never got a buff, so brings her down by a lot. Ivalo, no. Eren, that's what I meant to say. No. Naruto, Beasttail, Cloak, no. Eto, you know, nice ability, but only one of you could really get that kill, and if somebody steals it, you're not getting that passive of extra +6 damage, which sometimes might not even be good because there's better scaling in the game. Netero, he's great. He only plays 3 of them down, which brings him down by a ton, but still really nice. Stark, still really good magic unit, has a fat line AoE. He does have a really high SPA if you fully max him out, but his passive where he summons the wolves, which does 15% of his total damage, just puts him over at the top of great in my opinion. Aizen, I mean, his ability is nice, but it's global, and we haven't really seen his evolution, but once we see his evolution, he's probably gonna be meta. And that's my listing. If you have any other tier lists or want to add on to this, or maybe change some things or argue with some things, definitely leave a comment. And if you want to leave your own tier list, I'll put a link in the description as well. But yeah,